Wanted to officially welcome you to our second Alabama-specific Special Programs Power Up webinar. We hope that your school year is off to a great start so far. As a reminder, these power-ups were created to help you feel more supported in your state model of special programs and just to give you some greater visibility into what we're addressing and working on to improve your experience. As we're going throughout our presentation today, I'll be sharing some links and resources with you in the chat. If you missed our first Power Up back in June, the first link I'll be posting here in a second is to our PowerSchool community page where you can access our slide deck and recording from the last one. And then today's recording will be made available on the same page that I'll be sharing in a second in community within the next couple of business days. In addition to our chat feature, which you're welcome to use, we'll also be utilizing the Q&A feature, and I'd encourage you to ask any questions that you might have using this feature so that we can answer your questions as they come in. So here's the link to the recording from last one. We'll go ahead and get started. First, I just wanted to quickly go through the topics that we'll be covering with you today on today's call. In just a second, I'll introduce you to everyone who's on the call presenting with us today. I'll be providing you with Stacy will be providing you with some state updates. Then we'll have some ladies from ALSDE providing you with some module-specific updates. Gail's on the line.
Katie, can we record?
Oh, I'm not recording. I think I might be already. Let me just confirm that. Yep, yes, I'm recording. Yep. Thanks, Stacy. Thanks for making me check. Gail will be providing you with some product updates, and then Dana will provide some support updates, and then I'll round out the call with some best practices. I'm Katie Mowry, and I'm a member of the PowerSchool Education Impact Consulting team. I support customers here at PowerSchool as they grow into their use of products, specifically those in the student solution, which does include special programs. I'm joined today, as I mentioned, by Stacy Royster, who's your program coordinator for ALSDE for PowerSchool, Gail Cummins, who is your product owner for the Alabama model of special programs, and Dana Peterson, who is an engineer on our special program support team specific to the state of Alabama. And also joining us today are some other familiar voices from ALSDE. I have Ayanna Long, Emily Hurst, and Michelle Lee on the line, and they'll each take some time to provide you with updates from their respective areas of special programs. Thank you so much in advance, ladies, for joining us. All right, we're going to go ahead and dive right on in. I'm going to turn it over to you, Stacy.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our second Power Up. One update that I wanted to bring to you is on the side of receiving PowerSchool information. Hopefully, most all on the call are receiving the weekly Monday email, so you should have at 7 o'clock this morning received an ALSDE PowerSchool updates email that is full of information on all parts of PowerSchool. That's going to include the SIS, it's going to include special programs, Schoology, Performance Matters, Professional Learning, and any updates and tutorials that we have to give for that week. If you are not receiving that email, that means you need an education directory role assigned to you. Now, out of the box, I send to all coordinator groups within the education directory. So if you are the EL coordinator or the technology coordinator or the special education coordinator and so forth for your district, you should be receiving those as long as you have received your directory staff position assigned for your district. However, some people are in roles that aren't necessarily the coordinator role. So for those people who need to receive this information, we have 2 new education directory roles that can be assigned as a staff position at either a district level or a school level that will receive PowerSchool information as it is sent out from the State Department. So if you are a district level person, there is a PowerSchool primary contact role that can be assigned. And at a school level, there's just a PowerSchool contact role that can be assigned for anyone who needs to receive PowerSchool communication from the SDE. So check with the person who is over the education directory at your district to make sure that you have the appropriate role assigned so you can receive this information.
Thank you, Stacy. I will turn it over now to Ayanna, who will share Section 504 updates.
All right, good morning. So I don't have a lot. It's just 2 things just want to be mindful of. And one is, if you have any questions, make sure that you're uploading those in the PowerSchool Community, the Ideals portal. So one of the questions that was asked was basically about the parent sign, being able to sign in one of the forms in 504. So we've okayed that, and that should be included in the next update. And the next thing is we get a lot of questions about 504 plans and whether or not they're required to be submitted and accessed. And what we ask is that please, if you are not using the PowerSchool forms, which are not required, please create a PDF and upload that in special programs and send in the envelope so that Access teacher can have access to those 504 plans. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Ayana. Emily?
Good afternoon, everyone. So we want to make sure as we have our child count report upcoming that all of your gifted students are on an active status in special programs so that they are on that child count. That is the special education child count. The gifted is included. So please check to make sure that any student that was eligible for gifted has that active status. Also, our gifted referral snapshot will be due on October 21st of 2022. Remember that when you go in to check your gifted referral tracking log to prepare for that you put in October 2nd of 2021 to October 1 of 2022 as your start and end dates. And then make sure you click update report with values so that you generate the students that should show up on your tracking log. Some other gifted updates. We had some communication that positions were not populating for staff at the signature line on the gifted documents. So in order to fix that, that position comes from the SIS. So the district SIS administrators can update that staff record in the SIS under the information section and then add the staff position to the staff record. And then during the overnight import, the position will be added to the PowerSchool Special Programs profile for the staff record. And then you should see that automatically populate when you enter a staff member's name. On the gifted profile for the gifted participation status, please make sure that any students who are moving to indirect services that you change that participation status from active to inactive. And we did share directions for that in a News You Can Use email, and those directions were also placed in the Gifted Coordinator Schoology group. So if you're not part of the Schoology group and you didn't get that News You Can Use, just reach out to me and I can share those with you again. And so this is a screenshot of the gifted profile. And so that overall status there should be active, so the students show up on the child count. And then the second arrow shows the gifted participation status. That's what I was speaking about when I said it needed to be changed from active to inactive when students move into indirect services. Also, if you're an enrichment model system, you must mark the students that participate in enrichment services on the Alabama State Reporting Information page of the SIS. So any student that participates in enrichment at any point during the school year should have this box marked. And you'll see the breadcrumbs up there as well. You'll have to go to your start page and make a student selection and then find that Alabama State Reporting page. And I believe that's all we have.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
We'll round out our updates from ALSDE with Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle Lee, not Stacy Royster. But questions that we have been getting are what forms to complete in PowerSchool. So if you used elevations last year, you will use elevation again this year. You will need to complete the IELP forms in elevation. And don't forget to include that goal page. You will also, in PowerSchool special programs, on the EL section, you will have to create that student profile page. If it's a new student, you'll have to complete the whole profile page. It's a new page. And if it's a returning student, all you will have to do is update that form if it needs to be updated. If their status has changed or an exit date has changed, it needs to be updated. If you used PowerSchool last year, this year you will continue to use PowerSchool, and you will need to complete the IELP forms in PowerSchool special programs. If it's a new student, you will have to create new forms. You'll complete the notification to parents and the individual English language plan forms. If it's a returning student and you completed these forms last year, all you'll have to do is copy the forms and update the new information. And also you would complete the exit form if it's applicable. For elevations, this is what the profile page looks like. You would go to the profile section on special programs, select the English learner, fly out, and then edit that page. Go to the next one. When you're editing, this is what it looks like, that first box. If you're use elevations, that first EL checkbox, you will have to check it, but you'll have to fill out the country of origin, the EL status. You will not fill out the immigrant information that comes from the SIS. Everything that's in the red boxes comes from the SIS, so it should pull over. But you'll have to complete the entry date, the exit date, if they're SIFE or SLIFE, they're long-term English learners. If they waive Title III services, their U.S. entry date, and any comments, if there are any comments, and the rest of it will come from the SIS. If you're using PowerSchool, these are the forms when you're creating a new document. Remember, you might have to scroll down till you get to the English learner forms, but here's where you will have 4 forms that you may or may not have to complete. If it's a new student, you would have to complete that initial screener, and you will have to complete the individual English language plan. If they waive services, you would complete the waiver only if they waive services. And if they have exited the program this year or last year when they took the test, then you would fill that part out. Other questions that we're getting is the merger of PowerSchool and Elevations. And as of today, everyone that was using Elevations before should talk to their representative. I think most people are talking to CETA, but whoever your representative is, you should have talked to them by now at this point. Right now, nothing will change for this year. If you used Elevations for your IELPs, then they're in the system. If you use PowerSchool for your IELPs, you will not have to redo those IELPs once we merge with Elevations later on during this year. Next year is when everyone will be completing the IELPs and Elevations, not this year. And right now with that, even with next year, you will still have to complete the profile page in PowerSchool. Now, this is something we are working on with Elevations to see if we can get those to merge. But as of today, you will have to still complete that profile page in PowerSchool. I just wanted to make sure, because I've had a couple of questions about these validation forms. So we do have some for EL, and it is on the state level data validation reports. So if you click on the report list and you might have to go to, this starts on the second page for EL, and we have some validation reports. You can look here and see your count. Next page. And this is it goes on to the third page, and you have EL right there at the top, and then you have the home language survey in there also.
All right. Thank you so much to Ayana, Emily, and Michelle for serving as our special guests this time. I know everyone listening in today appreciates hearing these updates directly from you guys, so thank you so much. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so that Gail can provide some of her product updates.
Oh, so you want me to share the PowerPoint? Hold on.
Well, I can too, Gail, if that would be easier for you. I just didn't know if you wanted to hop over to you want me to share until you're ready to share in the platform?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, yep. Hang on one second. Okay, can you see it again?
I can.
Okay.
All right. Hello, everyone. So the next release we have for special programs model, Alabama model, is at the end of September. A couple highlights I've posted on this slide and the next that will be addressed in that release. The first is an ACAP alternate participation decision-making tool document is being added to the program. And I think some of you are familiar with it. You've worked it through and uploaded it, I believe, in the past. So that's new. One of the things that we had come up during child count is if y'all had deactivated any profiles, the status of the student became still active. So the state has asked us to make the profile status inactive when a record is deactivated. Correct data flow for a profile for referral for evaluation document. That and a few other documents, the data was not flowing back to the profiles. So we're correcting that. Transition notification, emails, or transfer notifications. Sorry about that. When we have an alert that comes out in communications that when a student transfers, it tells you little Johnny transferred from so-and-so school. There wasn't a way to end that. And if a student withdrew, it was still displaying the message. So we're fixing that. The post-school outcome survey, during that collection or when y'all were creating the surveys, there was one rule that wasn't populating correctly when unable to locate the former student or knowledgeable person was selected. It was not flowing to the correct selections after that section. So that's being fixed. Change the annual review checkbox to annual IEP on the IEP document. That was something that came into the state. Right now, it says annual review is a checkbox or initial, and they want us to just change that label to annual IEP. Another item that was requested when gifted referral snapshot or the gifted referral tracking log reports were printed, the LEA name wasn't on there, so we put that back in the title. And then country codes. I wanted to bring this up because Michelle had you go in and make some adjustments to some of your EL data. And on that same screen, there are country codes that write back to the SIS, and it was misconfigured. So some of them did not always flow right back to the SIS correctly. Some did, some didn't. So we're in the process of working through all of that. There's 3 different fields in the country code fields in the SIS. We want to make sure it's all consistent and the data is flowing back correctly. So we're working on that, and that'll be all fixed in September. We had a request in the IDEAS portal, and we talked to the state about it. And what was happening is when the general ed student record was transferring into these special programs, did not have race field as part of that initial integration. They would have it as a separate integration. And that separate integration was not always readily available when a student was entered immediately into the SIS. And we had a request because somebody wanted to, they enrolled a student in the SIS and then they immediately wanted to work with the records, the documents in the program. And sometimes there's a race code on a document that was not populating and they had to wait for that to populate. So we're adding that race to that demographic information in the general ed student so that it'll be readily available. One of the other things that came up is somebody said, and this was from the Ideas portal too, so you'll hear me say, talk about Ideas portal a little bit more later. So the date of mastery, somehow this got missed. I knew it worked like this in sets, where you didn't have to unfinalize or make a revision to put that date in. That date, the date of mastery on your goals now, you will not have to amend or unfinalize. You're going to just go in and you can type in the date of mastery. We're going to make that field editable and final. On the BIP document, this is another one from the Ideas portal, to make the intervention text boxes a little bit bigger so they're allowed for more text. So that's going to be fixed too with this update. So those are some of the main things. There's a few other things that will be fixed, but these were the main things that came from you all to help y'all work better in the software. So those will be in the next release. A couple other things have come up that I'd like to talk to you about. We have model releases that I'm scheduling, but then we also have platform releases. Platform releases are things that are out of the control of the model team. Model team usually is working on fixing your reports, your documents, that type of thing. Platform release would be something that would be something generic that's not working properly for all states on the model of special programs. And that release, just so y'all know, and you probably see it when you log into your program, it'll tell you when an update has occurred. That release comes out the first full weekend of every month. And sometimes it's little things that won't impact you all at all. Like it could be something on a digital signature or DocuSign, or it could be one thing I can give you an example of that was fixed a few months ago that someone brought up in this, probably somebody in this group in particular. When they went to go and to sort one of the columns on a report, even though they selected one thing, it always brought up just those that were in the beginning of that list. So that was a platform fix that had to be made. So that was done a couple months ago, I think back in May or June. So those are the types of things that come out in a platform release. Right now for model, like I said, September 30th is the next one. And then the one after that would be in December before Christmas. The other thing that I want to go over with you is there's been some things that have come up on transfers. And there's some confusion, but we made some changes and that's why there's some confusion. Way back when you all did your implementations, you were given some documents from services on how to go about working with your transfer documents. Since then, we made a few changes to the way transfers work based on some feedback from y'all. So I got a document that I am putting the final touches on, and I'm going to have Stacy send it out in her next newsreel that she sends out next Monday after I finalize it a little bit. But I want to share it with you now and go through it and the steps so that maybe this will help you all in understanding how transfers work and what some of the new features were that were in here. So I think I'll share now. That's okay. Okay, so I'm putting this document together, and it's got some things that'll show you the brand new things that are in here. And then there's other things that you probably already know because it's going through the steps, right? So pretty much, what we're going to highlight is some of the changes that were made and go through some of the steps. So in the setup, when you go to the setup of the document, there's a button here that says set up receiving user. Before you could only set one user. And it came up from a few different states that what if I have somebody that might be out and they're the ones that usually receive it in my district? Can I set it up for more than one person? So we opted to go with it with a security group. So now you can select either when you do click your receiving user setup, you can select either by staff ID and just pick one person. If there's just one person in your district, you're real small and they're the ones that are doing it. Or you can do it by security group. And in Alabama, we created that security group for transfer notifications that we use for the alerts. But you can also use that for the security group. You could enter the folks that you want to be able to manage the transfers in your district and put them in that security group and then select by security group. And then it'll bring up the text box to select what group. Like for this one, we've got the bullet for staff ID and it'll say look up for staff. It'll have a drop down with all your security groups. And then you can accept it. So that's something that's pretty cool that should help you out a little bit. And then you just follow the regular process down through and sending a transfer envelope. So sending the transfer envelope, you're going to go to utilities. You're going to go to send student transfer envelope from utilities. You're going to either use the lookup or create a student transfer envelope. If you know what the student's ID, you can type it in there or you can use the lookup. And none of this has changed this part. Okay, and then you would go and generate the student package. Once you've got your student selected, go ahead and generate the student package. Okay, and then it's going to bring up the screen to say, what do you want to send? And by default, it defaults to all of them checked. So it's going to show you the students' documents. It's going to show you the profiles, the child profiles, all that information. And then when you get down at the bottom, what you usually select, because in most cases, you want all the records transferred over for a student, you're going to select the oldest one in the list. So I think it's like 2008 to 2009 that's the oldest one in this list. Also, too, in Alabama, we don't care if it's in a draft or final document, we're going to send it. So you would select no here for these. And I've got that noted up here. To select no in the oldest years. All right, and then you're going to say generate the student package. After the package is generated, you're going to click send the envelope to, and it's going to bring up, you're going to select Alabama up here. You're going to pick through the list of school districts. Your list of school districts will display after you select the state, and then you can send your packet. All right. So none of that's changed. All of what I just said right in that part is all the same as how it works today. Okay, and you'll get look for the little notice down here because that'll tell you when it was sent successfully. Okay, other things that we added. Sometimes you want to extend the date of the transfer envelope so it doesn't fall off the screen. So we added in settings where you can extend the expiration date. So every time you click on this, it's going to add another 7 days. And then it will allow you to keep that longer. If you know you have a particular district that takes longer to respond, then you may want to advance that to be a little bit longer. So it will say, like right now, it says July 7th on our sample here. If you click on this, it'll say July 14th. If you click on it again, and so forth to the 21st. So. Okay, and it'll give you this little message that'll advance it for 7 more days. And that is sometimes we forget to go up here and look, but we can go up under settings and look at these and see. Okay, and then received by. So we added some more information so that you can see who's getting the transfer envelope that's being emailed to and who's receiving it. And that's going to be populated after the envelope is sent. Send transfer envelopes. Let's talk about that because that's where a change happened, and this is where we're getting some support cases. Under the transfer envelope, you're still going to do the same thing. You're going to go and receive student transfer envelope, same as you always have. You're going to select the student you want to import by clicking on the magnifying glass. Okay, you're going to click this arrow and it's going to populate the student ID because we're going to keep the same student IDs. And then import. If the student record doesn't exist in special programs, you can proceed by clicking on import. So if that import button comes in, that means you don't have the record here. In your old documentation, you are instructed to go to general ed students and import first before you transfer the envelope. You don't need to do that anymore. Okay. So you can go directly to your packet and receive your envelope if the student was never with you before. This is a brand new student into your district, and this import will bring that student record in. If by chance you did go and import through general ed students, you're going to see a different screen, and I'll show you that in a minute. So you're going to follow your steps for importing. And then it's going to give you the information and the status was imported on this date and time. Okay, and then once it's imported, you should see select the profile values for merging. So this is the new part. If you didn't import, if you already imported through general ed and or the student was with you at one time before, say you have a student that left your district, went to another district, and then came back again. You already have the student record. You're going to get this screen that comes up and it will say student profile for whatever the student name and ID is already exists. To merge, select merge options in the right column and click on the import button again. Everybody's only clicking on, well, not everybody. There are some folks that are just clicking on the checkbox next to merge documents. You have to click on the link here too. It's important. You have to click on that link because it's going to give you an option on selecting the values you want to keep for the student. So, and I've talked to my team, we're going to try to make this a little clearer for everybody so that it sticks out more. So these are the new steps. If you don't click on it, if you don't click on the select a profile value for merging link, then you're going to get an empty profile. And that's the thing that's been coming up. So that's important. You need to click on that link. All right. And then after you click on the link, you're going to get some profile values and a screen that comes up. And this is the screen that comes up. It's going to tell you these are the values in the first column that you currently have for the student. And do you notice all these are empty? These are the values that are in the envelope. Do you want these values? You've got to go and click the little dot next to the values you want. Now, I will tell you, it's bringing up all fields and all profiles, and it doesn't define which ones are integrated with the SIS. So if there's records on here, like I'll give you an example. In the EL profile, at the bottom of the screen, there's all the EL home language survey fields that import in from the SIS. Those fields might show up on here. You don't need to change those because the next time the import happens, it'll automatically override it anyways from what's in the SIS. So you don't need to select those. Dates that come in for your IEPs and your gifted, all of that information you want to bring in. Okay, so you go through and you would select the ones that you want. Ones that you know that are integrated from the SIS and it's going to populate with the new information anyways, then you don't need to select those. Okay, and then you would click on accept after you've made your choice. So that's the end of my document, but this is the big point. This link over here, select profile field values for merging, is what's not being selected and where we're getting support cases calling in saying that I merged my document, but I have no values in my profile. So that's the step that was missed in the selection here. Because if you left this bullet as blank here, you're going to get blank because that's where it defaults. Okay. All right, so I will, like I said, with this document, I will share it. I just want to clean it up just a tiny bit more. And then I will share it with Stacy and she'll put it out there for y'all to have in view. Shall I go to my next slide? Do I have another slide?
Yes, ma'am. I will get it for you.
Okay.
Let me grab the screen back. There you go.
Okay, if y'all have any questions on the transfer information, you can put it in the Q&A and we'll get back to you on that at the end, probably at the end, okay? So we've got a tight schedule here today. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk to you a little bit about is the ideas portal. I don't have it up to share, but if you're not, have you joined the community yet? That's probably should put the link here for it. Katie, oh, you did? Okay, great. Join the community. There's a lot of wealth of information there. If you're a technology contact, you have more information. So this is where you want to put enhancement requests, is in the ideas portal, and it's in the community. So you need to have access to the community to get to the ideas portal. There's a lot of information that's there. You can share ideas with folks on the community. It's a great place to hang out and get some good ideas from people. Enhancement requests would be reported in the ideas portal. And it's a great way for the state to review what's been requested so that they can make some decisions, and they will know too, the types of things that you are requesting. You probably heard me say I would say probably 4 times with my updates that the information came from the ideas portal. So that's kind of important to do that.
All right. Thank you so much for your updates, Gail. I'm going to pass it over now to Dana so she can share some trends that our team has observed in support cases over the last couple of months.
Thank you. We are still getting several cases a week in regards to missing integration IDTs. These usually happen because we have duplicate students in SIS, and sometimes those are also duplicated in special programs. They need to be resolved on the SIS side first before we resolve them in special programs so we don't continue to get duplicates. Once they are resolved, then we can update the integration IDT to match whichever record it was that was kept in the SIS so that the student will sync between the SIS and the special programs going forward. And we do have lots of duplicates that happen, and we, walk you through that process. If you have questions, you can put in a support ticket. I'll be glad to walk you through the process the first time if you need to, or I can just send you the link or the instructions to get those duplicates merged. I do have a document that will help you with the integration IDT. I can share that with you if you request it. But I do like to walk you through that process at least once before I share the document so that you understand the steps, and just in case I miss something and we need to correct it on the documentation. I still get cases in regards to students that are not able to have their contacts updated on the forms whenever they're entering the information. It's paramount that you request your SIS people to make sure they have at least one contact marked to receive mailing in SIS. It takes overnight for the student contacts to update. So it would be an overnight process in order for the import to happen. And then they would be able to refresh the document and see those contacts marked, and they would be able to add them into their document. We've been receiving multiple cases for staff that can no longer log into Power School special programs because the state has asked your SIS person to go in and update their ID to match what is in Ames Web. That's great on the SIS side, but it does cause a duplicate on the special program side if you don't go in and edit that profile in special programs to match the ID that is being used in SIS. When that occurs, of course, then we have to create a case and merge those duplicate records in your special program side and make sure we're keeping the record that is now active in SIS. So you have to work with your SIS people in order to make sure which ID that they're keeping in SIS so that you can keep the same one in special programs. Then we have to refresh the profile so that the security is updated from that role that is assigned in your SIS. So just if you have any questions, of course, put in a case. I'll be glad to walk you through it. Sometimes it's something different completely from staff not being able to log in, such as missing roles in the SIS that were never populated, or they're in the wrong groups. All right, next slide. And as Gail mentioned, in the country of origin, we are having some issues with that between the Power School SIS and the Power School special programs being populated. So if you have problems with that, of course, you can enter a case. We'll attach it to that defect, but we are in the process of getting that resolved. So hopefully that will be taken care of in the next update. If you have noticed recently that there is not the button for populating your snapshot, there are a couple of those that are not working properly, and they're going to be released in the next release. Looks like I put the platform releases on 9/3, so those should be updated so that will be working. You'll be allowed to select the approve button as well once you populate. And then if you do see that little yellow highlight that says that your report has been approved, you can ignore that until that's updated. I've had several cases where we wanted people to be able to go in and mass assign your case manager or go in and update possibly your gifted teachers and things of that nature. I've walked through that process with you. So if you're having trouble getting your mass assigned to work, again, just put in a case and I'll be glad to reach out to you and help you with that. I do assist you working on creating some of the more simple reports that you might be looking for very specific information, such as services or active students in a specific format. I'm glad to help you take care of any of those things. If you need some, really specific reports that are a lot more involved with the information that you're looking for, of course, you can reach out to services and they'll help you with those, creating those reports that have more in-depth items than what I usually do as a support person. And that's pretty much all we've been taking care of here at the beginning of school.
Thank you so much, Dana. I guess I'll turn it over to myself then. The last point that you just touched on, though, is the perfect segue to one of the topics that I'll be addressing with you today in my best practices section, which is reports. Though the school year is just now kicking off, reporting is always top of mind for every district. As you know, just by poking around, many reports already exist in special programs. These have been created based on state and federal needs year to year, but there are times that end users like case managers might wish to create their own unique reports to look at data that is specific to their roles and their needs. Some reasons that a user may wish to create a report include adding entry or exit dates to confirm a student's status, or managing due dates of milestones within a workflow, or maybe creating a list of students that you manage in your caseload, or identifying a list of students that have accommodations that are not included in your caseload, but maybe are a part of a class that someone co-teaches. So the best practice for creating a report is actually just to copy one that already exists. To do so, I've outlined the click path for you here. At the top, you'll click reporting. You'll choose standard reports. You'll select the category and the report that you want to copy. Choose more, and then from that drop down, copy report. Then you'll add this copy to your own category or maybe one that already exists. So you'll see in my screenshot here, I created a new category that I want to keep my own copies of reports in. Now's the chance to make this report your own. There are several self-explanatory tools built here to help you to add or remove or edit columns. You'll see that the add or edit columns is available to you using the pencil icons. Maybe I don't want the field to say gender. Maybe I want it to say sex, or maybe I just wanted to say the word grade instead of grade level. So I have the ability to edit those words there, those headers. And then you'll notice there's a plus sign on either side of the columns. That allows you to add a column to the corresponding side. So if I want to add a brand new column to the very end, I would click on the rightmost plus sign to add that column there at the very end. And then there's some buttons at the top of the screen when you're editing this report that allow you to update the report properties, change access permissions by clicking on that security button, download the report. Maybe you need it as a CSV file or a PDF. And then I've shown here in the screenshot what the More menu allows you to do. Some of it involves color coding, which is helpful for some people. Important note here, when finished, make sure to click that Finish Editing Report button at the top of the screen to save your changes and help them to go live and be accessible in the future. And 1 second. Okay, and then finally, if you subscribe to your report, you'll have quick access to it later. Reports that you subscribe to will display on your homepage. So when you log in, you'll see them right there front and center. Stacy has included a couple of really good resources for you for more information on standard reports in a recent weekly newsletter. It wasn't this past week. I think it might have been the week prior. And I'll include links to those resources in the chat for you in just a second. Let me grab them real quick and do that while I'm thinking about it. So there are those couple of resources for you. All right, another best practice that I wanted to talk to you quickly about today is about profile deactivation. This comes up a lot, a question about if it's an appropriate time to deactivate a student profile. The answer is you don't always need to. Think of deactivate as you used to have in SETS as the archive feature, but remember in this case that there are other modules involved. You know, you may have gifted or EL or 504 RTI working with the student records at the same time as you. And also keep in mind that state reporting is happening. So it's best if you just kind of leave those students alone. Graduated students can always be deactivated a year after they exit. And then when in doubt, deactivated student profiles can always be reactivated. Just try and leave them alone if you can, because there's state reporting going on behind the scenes.
Let me add a little bit to that too.
Thanks, Gail.
It's real important that we recognize the fact that we're not just a special ed and gifted program anymore. We're an EL, 504, and RTI. And so if you have a student that's no longer special ed, and he tests out or no longer gifted, then you don't want to deactivate the record, because then you're throwing off your reporting for your EL or 504, or if you're using RTI. So when in doubt, just don't deactivate the records at all. You should follow the rules that we had before. That, remember, we got state reporting. The state has to validate all that, and once you send that in, it's not done. The state has a few months before they even have to send it to Washington. So in the past, like this one bullet says, if you had a senior, those seniors are still being collected data for indicator reporting. So you don't deactivate them right away. Usually you were told in your old software to wait until the following spring, until after February, when we could get all of the reporting in. So best rule of thumb, don't deactivate unless you absolutely have to.
Thank you, Gail. Always helps to have further context there. And then the final best practice that I want to talk to you today is centered around working with documents that have been transferred to you from another district, kind of dovetailing off of what Gail was talking about earlier. Clicking that little curvy arrow to the right of a transferred document's name turns it into a live document. Be aware that when you do that, the fields within that now live document may render as blank, which you may not necessarily want. So to view the document that is shared with you by another district, just click on the name of the document. That will open it as a PDF with all of the data shared with you in the document. Do keep in mind, though, that staff fields and editable keywords do not transfer from district to district. Just a little pointer there. So this curvy arrow is what I'm talking about. That turns the document into a live document, which you may or may not want depending on what you're working on. All right, moving right along here. That brings us to the end of our program. We will have some time to address some lingering Q&A, but I wanted to make you aware that we do host regularly general special programs power-ups, in addition to office hours that have corresponding topics. So you'll see here I have them listed out and outlined here for you for the fall. I'll pop some links in the chat for you to register for these. We've not yet determined a date for our next Alabama-specific special programs power-up, but we'll notify you via email when it is time to register for the next one. And then finally, we wanted to make you aware, since it's right in your backyard, that 2 of our Power School events will be held in Mobile this year in December. One is Power School University, and then the other one is Power School University Educators. PSU is great to learn different solutions and strategies and techniques for what you're doing in Power School right now. There's a wide variety of courses with all of the products that are pertinent to you in Alabama, for novice users all the way up to advanced. Each course is specifically designed for your role in the school and the district that you serve. And then the registration for both of these events will begin on September 8th, and I will pop links for you in the chat for those in just a second. So I think that leads us to Q&A. Gail, I'm going to go ahead and pop some links in the chat really quick. Are there any questions that you wanted to address out loud, or Stacy, for the good of the group?
Well, yeah, I'm looking at the chat now.
Awesome.
I was really working off the Q&A, but I now see there's some things in the chat. Okay, someone had a good question. They said if someone forgot to pull in the profile values and they're blank now, or they probably maybe typed them in, you can go back and you can request that profile again, depending on if it's still available to you, because it's only available for a certain amount of time. Or you can ask that district just to send you the profiles, and then you can merge those and copy them in. So that's a good solution for any of you that had copied in your blank ones. So thank you for that. I meant to mention that. Okay, let me look at a couple more. Let me look at the other one. So another question we have is, some districts are getting the transferred student notifications when a student transfers in from another district in the state, and some are not getting all the notifications. I'm not real sure what would cause that. There's different criteria that's used for every one of those notifications for each of the modules. If you're not getting the notifications, I would suggest you work with support, and then they can walk through to see if it's a setting or something that that may be getting that hung up. So that would be best to do that. Okay. And then someone did say about the acknowledge the messages, but we are working on fixing that for the next release. So I didn't miss that. Okay, so I'm reading another one. When you launch a transfer document live, but don't change it from final to draft, everything we go back in again, it is a PDF. Once it is open as a PDF, we can't amend or make changes to the document. How do we have it live again? I'm not sure I follow the flow of that question very well, but I can tell you right now for transfer documents, I have another ticket open too right now for transfers. When you click on that little half circle, it makes it a draft document because it's assuming that you want to make changes to it. So what I've asked the development team to do, and it will be, this is a platform change for all states. So I've asked them to, if the document was final when it came over, to keep it final. And if you make it a live document, then you would make a revision to it. That way you retain all the information from the original document and you don't have that information. I'm not sure if that quite answers this question. But this might be something that, Dana, do you know what she's talking about? You can you assist with that answer? When you transfer a document live?
I have not seen where a document, once they make it live, goes back to a PDF. I typically see where they are accessing the PDF and they're not making them live. So if that person doesn't mind putting in a case and letting me talk to them one-on-one and taking a look at what they have going on, that would be absolutely perfect. That way we can make sure that we're doing everything correctly and that there's not something wrong with their particular setup.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dana.
No problem.
There's an elevation. Is Michelle still on?
I'm here.
Okay, there's a question that says when you thank you for letting us continue to use the elevation for all EL documents. For districts like ours with 1,600 EL students that have IELPs, this is much more manageable. So they appreciate you looking into the elevation stuff. So I want you to make sure you saw that one. Not sure it's a question, but okay. So where does the language spoken in the home populate from into the referral form? I'm not able to add that through editing and it's not populating. We're talking about the special, I'm not sure if we're talking about the special ed referral form, we're talking about the EL form, not quite sure. Or if you want to, can you add a little bit more to that so we can get to you with that?
And I'll jump in, Gail, because Lori, that is one of the questions on the home language survey that is over in the SIS. So it could very well be that if it is populating, typically all of those language questions are coming straight from that home language survey.
Okay, so Terry, does that help, Lori? It helps. So, so if we just mark inactive, they still show on a teacher's caseload. Yes. If you deactivate a student and make them inactive that way, they do not show on a teacher's caseload anymore. So that's a good point. Thanks, Terry. Somebody wants to know if we went over how, did you discuss how to delete forms that were excellently opened but aren't needed? That would be something that probably at administrative level that we'll have to do, or somebody that has the security rights. Deleting forms is part of a security action on a document. So that would have to be added through your admins to be able to do that. All students are not showing on the transition verification report. When will that be corrected? That report already was corrected. So we don't know of any issues. So I would suggest that you work with support on that. And I don't think, Dana, you've gotten any questions lately on the transition verification report, have you?
No, ma'am, I have not.
Okay. We did create that new profile that all the data was supposed to be working with that profile. Now, keep in mind, we had to migrate data into that profile, and then we had to bring data over from the old profiles and into and then do a script to pull the data in from the documents. So as long as you've got supporting documents, you should have the profiles, and you can generate it from looking at don't look at the special ed profile or the state reporting profile, look at the transfer profile and see if that has the data for the students that you might be missing. If not, please reach out to support because we're not aware of any other issues. All right, who is the point of contact for general usage questions and special programs such as how to print the meeting notice on one page? That would have to go through support. Any questions that you have, go through support and they can help you. If they can't help you by adjusting your print size and your print, when your print screens come up or your print, what is it called? The print, the dialog box for print will give you a way to adjust your printing size. Then maybe it's something that needs a ticket, but go through support for those kinds of things and then we'll get to the bottom of it. Okay, there seems to be a glitch for second grade child find for a student that was exited from speech and still shows inactive even when I manually put the student in as referred. I don't know what that's about. I would strongly suggest you go through support on that. There is a sequence of events for those two profiles that has to be done. And so that may be where you didn't click on the right profile at the right time. But there is a sequence of clicking on those profiles to make sure that you still have gifted information when a student leaves special ed. So I would go and work with support on that and they can help you out with that. All right, last one. One last
Hey,
question.
Gail,
Yeah,
I'm gonna grab this last one.
okay, go ahead.
One last question. We have a lot of people saying some SPED students do not have a blue folder. Is this an issue with anyone else in Alabama? Yes, if you're not seeing those blue documents over on the SIS side, that is a known issue, and we have support both on the SIS and special program side investigating to see what's going on with the plugin that connects those two. But what I have been telling everyone is that remember, there's more than one way for teachers to see who their special programs children are. Yes, we have the document icons, IEP icons, RTIEL, so forth that show up beside the kid as an alert. But also if they'll use the flyout and go into special programs as a classroom teacher, as long as they have been put in the classroom teacher group appropriately with security permissions, they'll see a list of all of their classes. And I actually have that video that I've shared in the last few weekly newsletters that show what the classroom teacher sees. And in there, I show how they can go into special programs and see all of their students in a list if they don't get those icons popping right now due to that defect. So if you want to make sure that your teachers can see who their special program students are, just have them go directly into special programs through the steps that I showed in that video. And if anyone needs that video, feel free to reach out to me and I can send to you.
Thank you so much, Stacy, and thank you, Gail, for fielding most of those questions and for Dana for the assist. All right, I believe that's everything. We've used every minute plus some. Thanks for sticking with us through the end. Like I said, the recording and the slide deck will be available later in community, and then we will let you know when it is time to register for the next one. We hope to see you back next time. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day and a good week ahead.